So if anybody wants to provide a motion to approve.
I don't see anything to change, so I will move that we approve the minutes from last meeting.
Okay. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Okay, so now it's time for public comment. If anyone would like to address the commission on a matter that's not on the agenda tonight, you can come up right now to the podium. Okay, it doesn't look like it. So we'll go ahead and start with director's report.
I just wanted to, excuse me, I am under the weather. I just wanted to say thank you and a pat on the back to my staff, the Recreation Department staff, for Albany Local Week. They put on an amazing community events that promote wonderful businesses in Albany, and I just wanted to thank them.
You're here.
You're here.
Also, great job on the Music in the Park. Such a great event.
So fun.
So fun. Oh, okay, so,
Nice to hear live music in Albany, apparently.
At least in September.
That's right.
so let's see. So item 5.1 is the presentation of the conceptual design for pedestrian improvements along San Pablo Avenue and Buchanan Street. And it looks like we have Aleda here.
Well,
Yes,
from Traffic and Safety.
yeah, thank you very much, and good evening. It's a pleasure to be here. You're gonna excuse my voice, but I'm losing it. But I am here to make this presentation about a project that we started basically in 2014. We had a complete streets planning effort for San Pablo Avenue and Buchanan Street, and it was a very comprehensive planning activity that we had. We had walk-in audits, a charrette, and several meetings with stakeholders that led to a conceptual plan for San Pablo Avenue and Buchanan Street. Thereafter, we applied for a grant through the Cycle 1 Active Transportation Plan. It's a state grant, and we got funds to develop construction plans for this concept. And right now, we have the 35% level that I'm going to present tonight to you. And it has some concepts for parking. We're going to revisit here the project goals when we finalize our complete streets planning effort. Basically, first was pedestrian safety, bicycle access along San Pablo and Buchanan, the transit integration, mainly on San Pablo Avenue because of the congestion is heavily affected, and to define identity and revitalization for the corridor, for the San Pablo Avenue corridor and Buchanan Street. So we had, this is basically the work area here, and I was hoping, okay, here it is. So is the corridor of San Pablo Avenue. The previous plan included everything up to the city limit with Berkeley, but this new grant, we are just focusing on the pedestrian improvements and the gateway design, San Pablo and Buchanan Street. So we're going to start with San Pablo Avenue. So this is the civil plans that was included in your packet. This includes bulb outs, high visibility crosswalks, medians, a rapid flashing beacon on one of the intersections here on San Pablo Avenue, and audible pedestrian equipment, equipping the signals with audible pedestrian signals for the vision impaired population. Particularly San Pablo Avenue is very important because we have the Center for the Blind, and they use San Pablo as a training grounds in addition to Solano and other streets. So this is San Pablo Avenue, the gateway, this is like by El Cerrito city limit. And one concept is to bring medians and some little like welcome plazas here by the creek, bulb outs with some vegetation. We have had one of the, even though you see trees here, the trees will be strategically located because we don't want to impede visibility. So mainly by the intersection is going to be low height vegetation. Just one thing I forgot to mention is that we're working also with Caltrans because San Pablo Avenue is within Caltrans jurisdiction. And we held a meeting at the beginning of this year to see what Caltrans would allow us to do in terms of design exemptions and also flexibility in design. So also we held the first technical advisory committee meeting last month. And that technical advisory committee is composed by members of the Traffic and Safety Commission, members of the Albany Solano Avenue Chamber of Commerce, and members of the staff members for the Center for the Blind. And who else? We also presented to the fire department and the police department. So we're receiving feedback from everybody at this point. So this is a perspective of how this plan view that I just showed will look like. So this is the other area that we're going to design. It's the, and this, I'm sorry, but this is a little bit upside down. I couldn't turn it because if I turn this one, the other ones will be on the other side, so I don't know what. So this is the Buchanan Marine merge. Basically, it's the creation of a park, of a pocket park at the Buchanan and Marine intersection and realignment of that intersection in order to have pedestrian access, because we don't have pedestrian access right now. So if you're a pedestrian walking along City Hall on the south side, then you have to really kind of like juggle the area in order to continue walking west. And it's kind of like the visibility is not right if you continue, if you walk here, cross here, so cars are actually crossing this way. It's kind of like, and also making this right turn at a fast pace. So it's really risky to walk there. So, let me go back to, so, and the other intersections that we are touching on Buchanan is Taylor. We're going to have a hybrid pedestrian beacon, which is called Hawk signal, which is like on-demand traffic signal. Pedestrians will push a button and then the signal will start flashing yellow and then red, and they will be able to cross. Traffic will stop because it will be like a red ball for traffic, and that's here on Taylor. And the last intersection, maybe not the last, but this is the other intersection we're modifying on Buchanan is Pierce Street. We are going to create a very a more attractive plaza in the little plaza that we created with the previous project of the Buchanan Bikeway, phases 1 and 2. It's just a concrete pad right now, so we have some ideas of how to enhance it. And I hope I can show you that pretty soon. So this is basically what I just talked about. This is the Pierce Buchanan intersection. This is the work area, the project area. This is how it looks like right now. We have a cul-de-sac here on this Buchanan Street. It used to be Buchanan Avenue, I think, and then this is this little piece here that we closed with the previous project. We also have a crosswalk that is a 444, and we have the path, the bicycle path that merges into that intersection. This is a picture of the sign that we have there. And basically, just trying to turn this plaza into a gateway place for wayfinding. You're there at the entering Albany. We want to make the people feel welcome. So this is a conceptual plan of what the consultants have envisioned. For instance, that we have a hardscape with cobbles and boulders around here. They're enhancing the wayfinding, the design here, and actually reconfiguring the curb ramp. So Another thing that it doesn't show here, but we are widening the curb ramp here by the USDA, which is very narrow. It should be about 10 feet wide, so we're doing that, and we're extending the bike lanes through the Pierce intersection. So these are some examples of materials that usually are used in this kind of for this kind of treatments. Now we have this, what we call the Pocket Park, which is the plaza de Buchanan, on Buchanan between Madison and Adams. This is the project area. This is how it looks like right now. And we also have, right here. We know here that the water drains towards Buchanan. So that gives us an opportunity to create a rain garden in the Pocket Plaza. So going back to the goal is a place for a Pocket Plaza, which is a place for movement, discovery and engagement, and visual and civic identity. So this is a plan of the conceptual design. I'm just going to walk you through it. So this is a pedestrian crossing that we basically don't have right now. We're going to realign to extend the nose of the median here, so traffic turns left here, and then basically we're still going to allow the right turn from Buchanan, from westbound Buchanan into westbound Marine into eastbound Buchanan, sorry. So, and here we are trying to redirect the pedestrian path, this alignment here. We're installing yield signs also, a yield bar, a stop bar here for vehicles turning right onto Madison. Here's a perspective of the conceptual plan. Again, this is basically the pathway for pedestrians. This is the water movement. This is where we want to create our rain garden here. And these are, elements that will make the plaza more attractive. There's a mini bridge here. So I think this realignment gives us to me, this is the culmination of the design. This is the best part of all the design. I show you the civil plans with, it's a median and everything in trees, but I think this is the highlight of the project. And I'm here to listen to what you want to say. These are some treatments that the consultants have envisioned for the Pocket Plaza. There's it's really interesting. This is an informational kiosk here, like wayfinding, which is kind of an interesting shape. We could put there. So, kind of plants, native plants. This is the like low irrigation, drought-resistant plants. And again, it's trying to reinstate the goals here for the pedestrian safety, bike access, transit integration, identity and rehabilitation, but also we want to see, we accomplish something more into this, which is the urban greening, stormwater management, wayfinding, and public open space. Any questions? Yes?
I have one question that comes from this diagram that is in our handout.
Mm-hmm.
And let's see, it's the Buchanan Street Corridor Improvements diagram. And it shows around the Pocket Plaza a red squiggle. And I just was wondering what that is.
I just put a red squiggle around the area that we were talking about.
This one?
That's just so you guys would know.
This diagram, you mean?
It was the one of just the plain, the one in the packet.
So, yeah, it's just to indicate.
Oh, the one that is
we're
upside
talking
down.
about Yeah.
Okay.
It highlighting that pocket park area.
Nicely done.
Let me look for it.
It's not on your version.
Yeah.
It was there, but not on your version. So that's what I was curious about. And then the red kind of poles in the conception of what that plaza might look like, are they poles?
Yeah, those are poles or ornamental features. We're open to, if you don't like them, we're open to discussion about those. Those are ornamental features, basically. I think there's a picture of those here. Oh, so, see, these have different colors, but that's basically what they're trying to do. They don't really have any function other than decoration, I think.
Okay, thank you.
But let me go to see the
Oh,
oh, this is just a location. Usually you do that when for consultants to actually mark something, you call their attention.
Well, it worked, it got my attention, so I appreciate it.
So I have a couple questions about the design, the Madison design, the traffic. So first question, can you go to this picture? Can you go to the like, what do you call it? The
Oh, it's
design
the slide?
It's the one we were just looking at.
Yeah.
Red squiggle.
The red
on our
squiggle.
Copy, yeah.
I think this is it. No. Okay, here, dear. Here?
Yeah. So the median has that turning arrow on it.
Yeah.
Is a U-turn going to be allowed, or is that just, is it a left turn only?
No, that U-turn is not allowed there.
Okay. And then I was wondering, so the main part of the park is to the east, and then there's that little piece to the west, which allows you to take a northbound turn on Madison. Was there any thought of connecting those and not allowing a northbound turn onto Madison?
Not allowing this.
Not allowing that turn, because like people could come, I guess,
No, they're only, it's westbound, northbound. Westbound from here to Madison, to northbound Madison. But there's no turn from here to here.
right, so, but off of Buchanan, was there any, so that turn onto Madison, was there any thought of stopping that turn there?
No, we haven't thought about that.
I was just wondering if, I actually forgot that Adams was a one-way street, and I was thinking that people were gonna pull out onto Buchanan and then loop around the park and pull into Madison, but I forgot that Adams was a one-way street, so that's not possible.
Yeah, it's one way northbound.
Right, right. Okay, so get that.
We haven't thought of not allowing the right turn here.
Okay.
I just wanted to comment that right now, the way the pattern is, I often see people pull onto the bike lane when they're waiting to pull out onto Marin. So I appreciate that this
Yeah.
removes that, which I consider to be a real safety
very
hazard
dangerous,
for
yeah.
people on the bike lane.
Right, yeah, it's going to be different.
I had a question about one of the concepts that you put up there, which were, I believe, letters that spelled out library
Yeah.
and had trees and lights. Are you thinking of spelling something like Albany, or was that just a concept they presented, but it hasn't been sort of fleshed
It
out
was a
yet?
concept, and that's why we're presenting these plans to you. So if you want to see something like Albany or Welcome, or please let me know,
I
because
thought it was lovely.
okay. Well, yeah. I think then you guys discuss and let me know if you want to have something spelled there, because that's what it will become.
A quick clarification, we don't have money for this work, we just have a grant for the plans. I just
Yes,
wanna be
but
very clear about that.
I'm working on getting money for construction.
Right, sure. And then could you say a little bit more about the plans for the rain garden, I guess, that's at the plaza at Buchanan
Right.
Madison?
Originally the plaza is the main opportunity to build, to implement a rain garden. The problem with San Pablo Avenue, which our idea was to have rain gardens at the bulb outs or on San Pablo Avenue, is that we don't have pipelines on San Pablo. So if we want to implement rain gardens on San Pablo, it would be very expensive to add a pipeline. Now, with this, there is, let's see, Pocket Plaza. No, hold on a minute, so it's before. So here, we saw that the water drains towards Buchanan. So by having that and the opportunity, but by having pipelines also there, it gives us the opportunity to create a very well irrigated rain garden. So the idea is to irrigate it through in the east-west direction, in that way. So.
Can you go to the rendering? I had one more question about this. That shows, it shows like a channel. Well, where's the? Yeah, that one, yeah. Or this,
Oh, okay.
yeah, something like that. Sorry, I'm just trying to get clear on what's planned there.
This one?
That's fine. So,
Let me see, hold on. Maybe not that one.
that's good, that's good.
That one?
Yeah, either one of those, yeah. So is that will just be an empty trough, or will there be something in it that the water would go into and soak in, or what would that be?
No, well, the bioretention area is this area.
Right.
think.
So what's the hardscape next to it? The channel, it looks like.
This?
Going north, I guess.
No, oh, this one.
A little bit further. I wish I had a point.
Under the bridge, little
Under
walk.
the, yeah,
here.
yeah, there. Well, the part that's blue, yeah, right there, yeah. What's intended for that? Is that?
Well, it is, I think that's a little bit out on open. It could be an open, but an open kind of like a area where water will flow,
Okay,
I think.
okay. On rainy days, presumably.
We can cover it too, so
Sure.
I don't think it's going to be something really deep or anything like that.
No,
And it might be only in the
just trying to get a little
winter.
more clarity on it. And then I had one more, see if I can remember it here. Let's just move on. It'll come back to me, thank you.
Will you tell us where the flashing beacon is? I
The
sort of-
flashing beacons is on San Pablo Avenue. And I'm sorry I didn't have the more civil plans here, so I should have brought all the civil plans, but the flashing beacon is on, not Garfield, is, that is the one. This is where the flashing beacon is, and it's Washington, this is Washington. The next one is, I always forget this name of.
Portland?
Portland, yeah, it's the one that goes directly to the high school.
Okay. So it's not a mid-block crossing, it's actually at a crosswalk, it's a crosswalk.
Yeah. That's unsignalized intersection.
Yeah.
We heard from the school, actually from the high school, that this is the area that is used by a lot of students. And it's dark, it needs some treatment. We're trying to align or send everybody to the intersections to cross the street.
So the beacon would be activated by them pressing a button
Yeah.
as opposed to waiting, because Washington is a really, really long light.
Right,
Washington has a signal, but Portland doesn't.
right.
So you're encouraging people to go to Portland and cross with the with a pedestrian beacon. That's a
Well,
great,
right now, that's what they're doing.
Yeah, that's
But they're not protected at all.
right, right. That's a great idea. Thank you.
Right.
Does anybody else have any questions? So I guess, one question I guess I have is what kind of input you are seeking today? I mean, this is a plan, looks like, is there anything particular that you'd like us to hear from us?
Yeah, I would like to see what your, actually, you do have also input on traffic operations, which is great, and I would like to hear those too. The main intent is also to present the park and recreation-related elements. And if you have strong opinions on something, like for instance, if you want to have something spelled on the pocket park, is right there. I mean, it's a good time right now to to give me that feedback. Or if you just have a particular plant that you want to see, or element on the pocket park or in the medians, that's great. But also, if you have another intersection where a flashing beacon could be implemented, I can actually bring that back to the Traffic and Safety Commission.
Okay, thanks. Does anybody have any comments?
Go to public comment.
Oh, public comment. Now we go to public comment. Okay, so inviting members of the public to come speak.
Good evening. I'm Ed Fields, and I only have questions. Thank you, Aileen. You asked my first question about where the flashing beacon was going to be. So my other question, Aleida, is can you explain the traffic movements at Madison and at the intersection of Buchanan and Marin Extension? But explain what movements will be permitted, because it's not clear to me. And don't use the upside down one because I can't handle that. So use this one or something where you can, and that's my question. That's all. Which movements are permitted and which will anything change? Obviously, you can't go through, right?
Leda, do you want me to put mine up there? It's rotated.
The one with the bubble? That's great. Yeah. Okay, so for instance, right now, thank you. The current condition is that Madison cannot cross southbound. Well, there's no. Right now, there's no westbound turn into Madison, northbound Madison. Are you following me? Okay, no. So in this case, the project will allow that turn. Also, it would be a better realignment of the traffic going southbound, turning onto westbound Buchanan by creating this pocket, the pocket park and the pork chop. It will allow that movement as it is allowed right now.
They won't be able to turn left onto Buchanan.
But they cannot turn left right now.
Right, so they won't be able to.
No, no.
Can you move the cursor to show what, do you have a,
Yeah, so I'm on the Madison area here, so here. So this movement going onto Buchanan westbound was allowed. It's allowed also the movement from westbound Buchanan onto northbound Madison, which is basically not allowed right now. Now, on the other intersection, which is the Buchanan-Marin intersection, you will be able to turn left onto Buchanan, onto eastbound Buchanan. Right there is an arrow. Yeah, maybe it should be aligned much better there. So, and then you're going to be able to continue going on to westbound Buchanan, turning into westbound Buchanan basically at the Marine intersection. It would be westbound Marine, I'm sorry, at this point it's Marine. Should be Buchanan. So Buchanan, continue in Buchanan, so that's basically the situation.
So if you're coming this way, right? You won't be able to go this way,
No,
but you'll be able to go that way.
but you're not able to do it
No,
right
I
now.
understand, but I'm just,
Yeah.
because you have all these things shown, right?
Yeah.
You have a gap here. Okay. So basically, just this is blocked. And you have to go this way and turn right.
Yeah. And you can still continue doing this.
There's a question.
Can you turn, you can turn left onto Madison, you can't do that now, but this would allow you to turn, would you be able to turn left onto,
Just right.
Right.
right there, like, can you turn left onto?
No. This is a median.
That's a median there, okay.
No.
So this, essentially the same movement, the only thing that's limited is you don't have that stop sign.
Well, right now, you can't actually turn right off of Buchanan onto Madison, because where the little island is there, that's continuous right now.
Yeah, you can.
You can't turn onto Madison directly from
Yeah.
Marin, the main street there. You have, if you look at,
Okay.
That's the part where people pull into the bike lane.
Right now you cannot do this, so you only do,
if you're coming this way,
and it's gonna remain the same.
it's adding that.
It's gonna remain the same.
That's
Yeah.
the one thing that changed.
And I think do we have any more comments from the public?
Hello, I'm Margot Cunningham, and I have a suggestion about plants for the Pocket Park, specifically for the water channel.
Right.
I think it would be good to plant some native grasses, sedges, rushes, native plants that like water, because they're good at filtering out pollutants, for one thing, and they look nice. And an example, there are a couple of examples in neighboring cities where they've done this. The city of El Cerrito, they've done this along San Pablo Avenue, where they've put in rain gardens and put a lot of native plants in there. And then also on, I believe it's Cutting Boulevard in Richmond, they've done a similar thing.
Yeah.
So, and then also, I would suggest pollinator plants. There's a lot of good native pollinator plants. Specifically, a good nursery that you can go to is Native Here Nursery up in the Tilden Regional Park.
Native?
Native Here Nursery, yes. And I've been collecting seed for them a lot from Albany Hill, so there's some very specific native plants that would do really good there.
Thank you for the suggestion. Sure. That's great.
Any other public comments? Okay, so we can bring it back to the commission. I just have a comment about, related to the plants. I think we deal a lot with street tree, sidewalk conflicts, and this seems like a really good opportunity here where you wouldn't have that conflict to plant trees that have nice canopy coverage. I mean, I know they can't have canopy coverage until they're more mature, but it would just be great to see that, and I think that would really add to the aesthetic appeal and the walkability, especially with our increasing temperatures. And right now, our subcommittee is looking at street tree, right, species, so maybe we could come up with some to suggest, I don't know, or John could, our arborist at some point, urban forester. Anybody else? Comments?
Would you know when the policy will be, you said that there's a tree policy, a tree?
We're just having we're looking at, we have a subcommittee looking at our street tree list.
A certain list?
Yeah.
Do you know when they're gonna?
Wish we did.
Any other comments?
I have a few, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. So I would like to look at the proposed gateway down by the car wash. I just had a few concerns about that. And most of my concerns, I think, are basically traffic and safety concerns. Just, I know that intersection right at the car wash gets very impacted, and lots of problems there. And I hate to see anything impinging on that.
Here.
Yeah, so maybe go to the rendering of the proposal. I wish I brought my laser pointer. I should have brought my laser pointer.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm looking at this picture. Yeah, there we go. There we know that. Yeah. So I'm thinking of I hate to do it, but cutting back that on the, I guess, the west side, you know, pushing it back a little bit so that there's still adequate space at the
This side?
at the west. Yeah, there. You really see the cursor. Yes,
Yeah.
sorry. And then on the other side, again, it's more of a traffic and safety concern. I just worry about visibility. I mean, we see the trees there, but that's the driveway. If we push that back just a little bit as well, you might have a little more
Here.
visibility. Yeah, there, right. That's my primary concern, just visibility. I think it's very nice.
We met with the owner of the car wash, and he expressed the same visibility concerns. Now, this is in between the exit driveway and the Sutter, I think,
Yeah.
clinic. So we talk about, you know, in this case, this was done before my conversation with the
Sure,
owner.
sure.
So especially low visibility,
Yeah.
grasses, not too tall. I mean, unfortunately, trees, they have to be, they're young. When they're young, they're
Well,
low in height.
On that side, it doesn't matter because
Yeah.
you're pulling out into traffic going that way. You're looking the other way to see traffic. The other side is where you're trying to look through the trees,
Yeah.
to see traffic coming, and that's where I'm concerned about visibility. But
So that he also asked us to do only right turns from his exit driveway. He doesn't want any.
sure, no, I think
so,
that's,
yeah.
I think that's,
So that's why we extended this nose here.
yeah.
Now, this sign here, Albany, that if you want, it would be a placeholder, and you guys can maybe not this commission, or in coordination with the Arts Commission, design commission something to be as a monument or a piece of art for
I like that. Yeah.
for that gateway. But we can leave it as a placeholder.
Yeah, sure.
So.
Okay. And, shoot, I'm sorry. Somebody else want to jump in while I,
Well, because my questions are in the same area on the same page. So the areas that you're proposing adding trees and a ground cover of some sort, is that currently parking?
Yeah, that's currently parking. Now, this area of Albany has a very low occupancy. We mostly in the center between San Pablo and Solano is when the parking demand is higher. This area is very low demand.
Yeah, and you can see the parking lot right there, too. The Wells Fargo has a parking lot. I mean, I know that that's just for Wells Fargo. I was just going to say, you know, even in San Francisco, they're taking spaces away, and San Francisco has high demand for parking and everywhere. So I really applaud you for this effort of planning, because I think it's much more beautiful already, even just on the page, so.
Well, I agree, too. I like it, too. And
right.
I guess I couldn't tell from the handouts that we were given, is this the only place where you're proposing replacing parking with green space?
This is the only place that we might have an opportunity for these green spaces to become a rain garden. We might not. It might have to be. We might have to install irrigation, but there is an opportunity to connect with the creek with a pipeline that goes to the. Drains to the creek. The problem that we have on San Pablo Avenue is everything is through the surface, so we don't have enough water to create a rain garden. And as I said, if we install a pipeline, it's going to be very expensive. Right now, with what I showed you, is about $3.5 million, and it will keep on going up.
But just pull that water that's dripping down from the car wash there and you're set.
That's,
It's always wet, always wet.
no, that's right, that's true. So the other part, I just want to go back. So here, the bulb outs that, for instance, this bulb out on San Pablo Avenue, at Castro doesn't have bulb out, but this is Garfield. This bulb out will actually eliminate parking that is right by the intersection. But anyways, what we're doing also with this project is red curb 20 feet at every leg of the intersection, so we daylight the intersection for better visibility. That's what we're doing too. So there's another one here this is Garfield in my lapsus, mental lapsus, what is that? Portland. Oh my gosh, Portland, Oregon, Portland. Always forget this street. So here is another one that we will have a bulb out on both sides, on 3 sides actually, on San Pablo and on Portland. And that's where we are going to eliminate parking. But it's not going to be a rain garden.
I'm actually curious if there's more opportunity for trees and other green areas.
The median that we're installing on San Pablo Avenue is between Brighton and Garfield, I think it is, isn't it? No, Brighton and Clay. So here it's going to be a median with green, with vegetation and some trees in the middle. The fire department has asked us not to have trees by the intersections because it will preclude their turning. I don't know if you can see this is also an access for fire trucks. Let me see if I can enlarge this view. It's very faint right now, but they asked us to provide a break in the median with a roll curb so they can actually go to the other direction. So when we finalize, as we go into more detail with these plans, we're going to have to really locate the trees maybe around here only, and where this match line is, so we don't obstruct this passability for the fire trucks. We're still working on the bicycle access for the 2 Washington legs because we have about three alternatives that we need to really run by Caltrans because they're not typical alternatives. We want to see if it's possible to create a cycle track in between the 2 legs of Washington Avenue. That's something that we're evaluating right now because one of the first options was to create a cycle track in the middle, but then it will alter traffic operations.
Anybody have any more comments or questions?
So the other area I had a question on or comment was at Buchanan and Pierce.
Buchanan Pierce. Okay. Yeah.
Right. So if I'm understanding these plans properly, so let's look at the picture, the top right. You have the cul-de-sac. You have the dead end there.
Yeah, here.
So we're going to put looks like some rocks and some landscaping right at the tip of that, right? Kind of blocking that. That's correct.
Oh, here.
Yeah, there.
Yeah.
So I seem to remember, I mean, I was a little involved in this when we were planning this however many years ago, and I remember that wanting to be left open for emergency vehicle access to get onto that street so that they could come up on the curb and go straight across.
That is right, yeah.
So I didn't know how that was, maybe they'll retract, that'd be really cool. Could they retract? Love that, but.
That is something that's a good point, actually. Okay. And by the way, when we recently installed, after we closed that street, we saw a couple of vehicles still going.
Oh, really? So
yeah.
there might be.
Yeah, so.
Not a surprise.
Not anymore, though, not anymore. I mean, it was after we did this construction. But maybe we can consider just texture, not boulders, but just texture, and still keep that open. It will facilitate with this long curb ramp also.
Right.
The entry. We didn't want to do it then because right now, when we did the Buchanan Bikeway phases 1 and 2, even with the existing 2 ramps vehicles would go, this will actually invite them more. It would be easier
right.
access.
Right,
So.
right.
So I'm going to keep in mind that comment that it might be used for emergency access. So maybe we should eliminate the boulders from this area, this little area, and keep them only here.
And I like that the plan is for everything to be short so that it doesn't impinge with visibility for the bikes, which are obviously, hopefully using this, and pedestrians, Okay.
Any other
I think
comments?
that's-
I had a question for you about the little pocket park. Can you speak a little bit about the process by which you kind of identify the best uses for something of that size? Like maybe some best practices about how a community this size thinks about the parks we already have, and also it's on a high traffic corridor area, so the greening is really lovely, and also there will be a lot of traffic by there, so sort of how you use that as a way to identify potential uses or hardscaping for that park. For example, obviously pedestrians will walk through it, but are there other uses that you thought about or that were part of the kind of conceptual planning with the sort of design of that, or what that process typically looks like when there are new little parks?
Well, right now, in my world, the objective of that realignment was to create pedestrian access. The opportunity came that with that, it could be a nice pocket park, and it's a high traffic area. But also with the pocket park, it would be a nice welcome area for visitors to Albany. Oh, this is nice, because everybody goes through Buchanan and continues on Marine, or maybe just go to San Pablo Avenue, and this is a gateway. So we were thinking that this is a great opportunity to create a gateway, more than the bridge, the Buchanan Bridge, because everybody's in a hurry when they just enter from the freeway, and it's like they don't want to pay attention. But that has a nice angle. When you drive on Buchanan and Marine, you can see that park, and you can make it very prominent and actually send a message that said, "Welcome to Albany." And I think this is the commission that can give me the ideas in the process and inform the traffic and safety on what you really want for this pocket park. I don't have any more to say. I cannot tell you how the process is, but the one thing I can promise is to bring these plans back as we continue improving and finalizing the details and working with Caltrans. As I said, Caltrans doesn't have anything to do with Buchanan, but we have to work with Caltrans because of San Pablo. But I'm here to receive feedback and to inform the Traffic and Safety Commission what you want to see at the pocket park, to see it in the medians. We have to really balance visibility. In a way, the pocket park is your park, is your jurisdiction. The medians are more like, okay, we have to really consider what Caltrans has to say about that, what the Traffic and Safety Commission, the visibility and everything. So in this case, I think this plaza and the pocket park will be your world.
So I wonder if, I like all these ideas. But I wonder if we could, if we want to think about being consistent between some of the parks and some of the gateways in the city. So like we talked about, we worked with the Arts Commission on the Ohlone Greenway, having that big yellow piping sign that says Albany. And so when it comes to putting some sort of an artistic structure at the gateway near the car wash, or even at, the gateway here, is there some way to maintain consistency between that, or like that branding of Albany? So that's something that I would think about. And along those lines, when people were talking about the visibility issues or the bulb outs, creating issues for traffic, is there some sort of a sidewalk treatment or a pavement treatment that could add to that consistency and be placed in different areas throughout the city to really identify, like, this is the entrance to Albany, or this is, you know, a little pocket park in Albany.
Do you have any standards at this point? Or, I mean, like you have the Ohlone Greenway treatment, so maybe we can, we do have some kind of wayfinding signage that we are kind of like working on it right now. We, I think you have a picture here, I think.
I mean, the city does have a city font that we use, and so that
Yeah.
would make it definitely consistent. I think this wayfinding sign is probably going to get spruced up a bit.
That's what we're talking with Shelley, that we would like to refine it. Is that the word? Yeah.
So I think one way is definitely in fonts and in colors. You see that a lot in different cities, that you know where you are.
Yeah.
And
The Ohlone Greenway has this, also a prototype of this sign as well, by El Cerrito.
there were a couple of these that went in initially, and I think it's a long-term project for Aleda and I to work on nice, consistent signage, wayfinding signage that looks like it's Albany's signage.
Yeah, and for San Pablo, we could actually, this is the bike wayfinding. We work on like about 5 years ago, we work on with the cities in Contra Costa County along the I-80 corridor. There is an agency called WICTAC. It's a West Contra Costa Transportation Advisory Committee. The executive director called all the cities along I-80 to see if we can get to a uniform wayfinding signage along all the cities, and everybody kind of like, it's, yeah, we can stick with the design guidelines, but everybody wanted to have their own brand, their own colors. And I don't know if you've seen, San Pablo has orange and blue, El Cerrito is blue and green, kind of derived from the same exercise. And then they develop a map for wayfinding for us. So San Pablo Avenue, if we go with this San Pablo Avenue pedestrian improvements, it recommends about 5 signs for wayfinding and a kiosk, like an informational kiosk at the gateways. So welcome, with a little map or something like that. So maybe we can incorporate those things. Maybe this is the time to do it, now that we have this huge plan development. It's not even a planning, it's basically a construction plan development, but we can actually inform the process. That's something that in the grant application, it was envisioned, and also in the scope of work for the consultants, we envisioned the wayfinding. So if that would be something I would be very interested in. And I'm sure the Economic Development Committee would be very interested in those as well.
Okay.
So,
Sorry. Lady, you've had a long day. I very apologize. So you just kind of suggested that, you said this is our park. How far should we be going into the weeds, no pun intended, right now on this? Is this
Right now,
just kind of like a placeholder in my
yeah,
mind? It's
yeah.
just like-
Just give me broad ideas of. This is just basically a conceptual plan that I'm presenting at this point.
Yeah.
So, Commissioner Harriet said that she likes the letters. I would like a uniform, maybe set of comments. And if you're not ready to give me the comments right now, maybe send them to Shelley, and then Shelley will get me the comments. But I hear some desires here, so it would be, as I said, right now it's 35%. Our goal is to finalize these plans in the spring of 2018. So, and after that, we will pursue funds for construction. I mean, at 3.5 million, I don't see that it's going to be easy, but at least we can do maybe the pocket park, maybe other things, depending on how the funding concretizes, then we can just do more things.
Okay. Thank you, Aleda. Do we have any? Oh, sorry.
Well, I wanted to second or third or whatever Margot's suggestion about grasses and particularly plants that support pollinators. this park is fairly close to Albany Hills, so attracting the monarchs might be good unless it's too close to too much traffic. I defer to you on that. And because that's my personal bent, more green, more natives, the red poles don't leap out to me as a plus. So I wanted to raise that in case other people had comments on that. My personal preference would be more green, more natural, but that perhaps would be less exciting for our entry and welcome. So I wanted to ask if other people had thoughts on that to give some guidance.
I'm newer to park design, and I welcome the opportunity to maybe send some comments afterwards, only because I would like to look at other parks of this size and kind of get a feeling for a range of different treatments. I love natural, but I also am sensitive to the comment about maybe a branded entry to Albany on all of these different areas could kind of help people identify with the city and the civic identity goals, so.
Was it the architect that suggested the red poles?
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be, yeah. I was wondering about that too. I don't know that that's necessarily consistent with,
If you made them yellow, then they would match the BART.
Green and the colors of Albany, maybe.
I mean, the poles as they're portrayed here, they just look like a hazard to me.
Yeah.
You're walking along, it looked like a barrier. I can see
Okay.
little kids running into them. I wasn't going to go that far because I figured it's too early, but
I like the alignment of the sidewalk. And I guess I saw I thought it was interesting the way it was skewed, and you have two different walkways. That one looks like it's more pavement, and the other one looks like it's more natural. And I mean, I sort of saw the red poles as guiding the way.
Yeah, it's a guiding the way.
I thought that it was sort of a cool feature, but then I hear what you're saying about it's a park and maybe it could be trees.
But I wonder if they're needed. Maybe they're not even needed. So you have trees all over the place here.
I had a question if that was related to the fact that it's by a high traffic area, because I think I have seen parks that are sort of in a more urban scape where they use some of those modern items to sort of counterbalance and attract your attention to the park features as opposed to a more muted thing. But I actually feel like it's going to feel very nice with the contiguous up against the street there. Kind of, it's like an extension of that street. Whoever's home that is going to be in a good situation.
Well, it also looks like the trees, that larger trees are planted closer to the homes, like to the west, which provide us a barrier. And then it looks like you have the grasses and you have smaller, flowering bushes towards the roadway. And I like that. I like that separation.
I had one more quick comment. Looking at this and kind of conceiving this as a gateway, it would be interesting if whatever we end up doing here could be reflected on the other side as well, on the other side of the street. I know that there's not room, and I wouldn't.
The south side?
The south side of Buchanan or Marin, whatever it is there. Just a planting, just something to just kind of slightly reflect, so it does
Tie it
feel like
together.
it's tied together, like you're going through something. I'm not a lot. I'm not saying talking about a lot
Well,
more. If we have a yellow Albany or something there, we have something yellow on the other side, or
I see.
different colored plants. It doesn't have to be a lot. It's just something to kind of reflect. Because I wouldn't even begin to think about suggesting we ask UC for more room there. That's not going to happen. But
Well, we will have an opportunity to do that area of where the right turn is on the south side of Marine, at the intersection approach of the existing bikeway or a path, multi-use path. We're going to go a little bit further to the south in order to create a bicycle lane in between the right turn lane and the through lane. So we might have an opportunity to replant.
just saying.
So let me that might be for this Phase 4 project. And I hope I don't forget. So I'll write it down here.
Are you talking about the corner where the red crosswalk kind of diagram is?
Yes. No, well, let me go back to that.
Across from the city hall.
Yeah, across from City Hall, that's right, yeah. So we're gonna do, okay, It is not exactly across, but we're going to redo this part here.
Yeah.
Only this part. So if that, we can use the same plantings that are by the, adjacent to the roadway here and here. So I don't promise anything here
No.
because it's already done, but this one is, it's going to be reconstructed. This
I was just thinking, that, the little strip of green, next to the bike path, just a similar planting or something there, just a small gesture towards it.
I promise that I can do something here.
Oh, don't
About that.
promise. Don't want to promise.
Because we're reconstructing, so that's important. In this case, it's already planted unless we have some, I mean, we can replant, I guess. I can,
Just put some red poles over there.
red poles right there.
Right next to the bike lane, nice.
Well, I was thinking that was the only good reason to have red poles, was to be consistent. I'm not an architect, but I'll just throw out one more thought, which is, as I look at this, there's a whole lot of things zigzagging through, and that's kind of cool, but blue poles, something to play up the water feature. It's an awful lot of things going through there, and I really like the water also. So if that could be accented by blue poles, I don't know. I don't have any idea.
Sorry, I might have missed something. Do we need the poles, or that was just an artistic?
I thought you were saying that we eliminate the poles. I mean, that's.
I would prefer to
Yeah,
eliminate
I would prefer
them,
that
yes.
too.
But there's also the white, whatever's in there. And I think they're looking for something. So if there's something they could think of that would play up the water piece, I think that's kind of cool.
Aleda, so what's the next step in the process? Is there a planning group, or does it just go
We have a technical advisory committee. And one thing that it would be, just occurred to me, is that invite one of you to join that TAC. If you have
Anybody
time.
interested?
Like a representative of this commission to join the TAC. Alan Kane is in the TAC too, so that actually kills two birds with one stone. It's the economic development and the Merchants Association.
I'd be very interested.
Perfect.
So Commissioner Patterson is going to join the TAC? Thanks. Okay, anybody have any other comments, input? Okay, thanks, Aleda. Thank you so much. Oh, you have-
So just for the record, next, we're presenting this to the traffic. Actually, you're seeing before the Traffic and Safety Commission. Traffic and Safety Commission by the end of this month. Arts Committee in November, and possibly also the Economic Development Committee. And then after that, we are also scheduling a meeting with Caltrans, the second meeting with Caltrans, and the next presentation will be at 65% with all of the feedback that we receive. This is 35% level of detail. We're going to have 65% level of detail, 95, and final.
So would you like comments by a certain date if they want to get them to me?
Yes, if you can comment by the 26th, which is the date we're going to present to the Traffic and Safety, maybe the 25th would be great, so I can just present those comments to the commission.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thanks, Aleda. So the next item is Albany Hill Vegetation Management, and we have Margot, right? Is that what- Okay, Margot Cunningham is here to speak on that.
Okay, thank you for your suggestions. It's great. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm going to switch gears now. We're going to go from urban Albany to the semi-wilds of Albany Hill. So I'll give two updates. One on the Monarch study. I met with a biologist 3 weeks ago, initial meeting, and we walked in some of the areas where the butterflies have been known to congregate in the past. And he took some initial wind recordings in the afternoon. He looked at the areas, and there was this one meadow on the west side, and he said, this is perfect monarch habitat. It's got all the right elements of protection from the wind, and it's got sun. And so he's going to be coming back if it ever gets foggy or cloudy again around here, to take some photographs. And what he does is they're called hemispherical photographs. That it's a camera pointed up to the sky, and it gets a 180-degree field of view, so it shows all of the canopy, all of the visible sky, and then the canopy of the trees, and then he takes measurements of the amount of visible sky from these photographs. He calculates wind exposure and solar radiation, and he uses all of this to give recommendations of what the monarchs need, what their ideal microclimates are on the hill. And he also he'll be doing mapping of trees so that we know which trees are critical for the monarchs, which will be useful when we do some trail improvement projects on the hill, so that we'll know which trees to keep and which can be taken down if needed. He said we saw several young eucalyptus in this one meadow, and I asked him, well, can we just take these out? He said, no, you actually need some young eucalyptus to be replacements for the older eucalyptus that will eventually die. So he's also going to make recommendations for native plantings that we can do on the hill, which will be good nectar sources for the butterflies. So he'll be coming back in the next several months to do some more measurements and come up with a plan for what we need to do, what we need to watch out for for upcoming projects on the hill, and how to make sure that we don't scare away the monarchs. So are there any questions before I go on to oaks? Any questions about the monarchs?
Is there an intention to keep the eucalyptus over time rather than?
The ones that the monarchs are using, yes, yes. And that's what he's going to be finding out, because there's some that act as wind buffers, well, quite a few of them that act as wind buffers, so you want to make sure that we don't take those down.
So do the monarchs roost? Is that the right term?
Yes, they roost, yeah. Yeah, they roost in several eucalyptus and actually some acacia as well. So we'll have to keep all those.
What did they use before the eucalyptus showed up?
Yeah, I asked him that, and he said that's all going to be in the report also. He said they used, on the Monterey Peninsula, the Monterey cypress that were very abundant there years ago, and I believe also sycamores, and I think also some coast live oaks, just various native plants that were around in more abundance before. So, but now they're finding the eucalyptus and other plants that are here now, so they're using those.
So is there any thought of planting more native trees to kind of ease out?
Possibly, yes. There's a lot of native toyon up there that is good, but yes, he'll have suggestions for other plants that we can put in. So,
Great, thank you.
yeah. Any other questions on the monarchs? Okay. I'll be talking now about a project that I'd like to do in Creekside Park, thinning some oaks. Okay, so this is a picture from the early 1990s showing the meadows on the east side of Albany Hill. And this is looking south. So Cerrito Creek is behind the photographer. Middle Creek is on the right side. So this is Middle Creek in this area. And this is the area today, what it looks like. So it's quite different. You'll see there's a lot more oaks in the area. The meadows have been shrinking over actually hundreds of years, actually. The Albany Hill in the beginning was grassland, pretty much all grassland, and except for the north side where there was an oak woodland, and then there were some chaparral plants also. But so over several decades, oaks have gradually been, these are coast live oaks, they're natives, but they've been gradually taking over the grasslands. Now, grasslands, they need disturbance to stay, to exist. And the way that happened in the past is that there were animals that grazed the grasslands. There were pronghorn antelope, there were elk, and then later cattle. And they would eat and trample any seedling shrubs and trees that came up. And also California Indians burned huge areas of grasslands to encourage the growth of the plants that they harvested for food, and also so that they could see game that they were hunting. So, and actually more recently there were goats that were grazing on Albany Hill. But all this is gone now. So the grasslands have gradually been shrinking with oaks and other shrubs, poison oak also taking over. I don't have anything against oaks, but grasslands do have their own set of animals and plants. That there's a lot of bees and butterflies and birds that depend on grasslands. And the Albany Hill Plan does have some recommendations for removing shrubs and trees that are encroaching on the grasslands, and also thinning some of the oaks that are growing quite thick. So this is another view from the early 1990s showing, I believe it's the north side, maybe near the northeast side of the hill, showing the oak woodland higher up, and then there's a lot more there was a lot more grass meadow back then. This is near that same area today, so the oaks have really grown up. So in the Creekside, the Albany Hill Creekside Plan has recommendations for keeping the meadows open, and so in my recommendations are that I would thin out or remove some of these trees and shrubs that are starting to take over the meadow. So this little guy here, this little oak, I would take that out. And then over here, this is, well, you can see the bench here. This is Cerrito Creek. So this is looking kind of west. I would remove these trees here and then keep this big one here. And that way, the oaks that are left, they'll have more room, they get more sunlight and more water, so they'll be healthier. So these are the series of oaks here. Nice, good place for vandalizing. I would remove all of these oaks. Now, this is the path that I showed earlier, looking south. This is Middle Creek over here. All of these oaks in here, these are all pretty young oaks, I'd say 15 years old or less, and they've formed this big thicket. There's several all growing up together. So I would thin these out and leave one or two of the best ones so that they'll grow better. And another consideration is this area right in here is where kids have carved out and dug up, just ruined the landscape there. They put in these ramps for bikes, and I would thin out most of these oaks, and it would not only make it better for the oaks and for the grassland, but also it would make it more, it would provide more visibility for people hiking on this trail. This is the trail here that goes along the east side of the hill between Cerrito Creek and Madison. So it would, people walking along there, I think they would feel safer with less trees that, you know, could potentially hide people doing nefarious activities. Okay, this is the entrance to the Oak Woodland Trail that goes from the east side of the hill all the way up to the top. So in here, you've got several, I don't know, seems like almost 100 little oak trees growing all together, and some of them are dead or half dead. So in here, it's not only making it better for the oaks and providing more visibility, but there's also a fire hazard here. These are creating fire ladders where if some of these trees catch fire, they could send flames up into the bigger oaks. So I would thin out a lot of these little oaks here. This is another view of the same trail entrance. So you can see all these little oaks in here. And then there's a nice big oak here that I would keep. And there's a couple other oaks in here as well, big ones right there. This is the more southern entrance to the Oak Woodland Trail. There's two entrances, and they connect a little bit up a ways a little bit. So in here, there's also several small oaks that need to be thinned out. Now, this area here is the second kind of big meadow more towards the entrance to Madison. So if you continue, if you're going south from Cerrito Creek, there's that one big meadow, then there's the Oak Woodland Trail, and then there's this meadow here. So there's several oaks, some starting to take over the meadow, and there's a bunch of little ones up in here. This is a better view here. It shows several ones in here. Some of them don't look that healthy. So I would thin out several of these, leaving the healthiest ones. And then here's another view of the meadow on the other side. There's 2 or 3 oaks in here that I would remove. So the oaks that I'm proposing to take out, they're between 1 inch to about 9 inches in diameter. So there are some really small ones and then some kind of medium-sized ones. So yeah, that's an update on what I'm doing there, and I just wanted to see if there are any questions about this, because they are native trees, so I think some people, might be a little shocked to see some native trees being removed, especially oaks are a very good, nice evergreen tree, but they do have a tendency to, they propagate very well. I'm actually, in my own yard, I'm constantly pulling up little oaks because they sprout everywhere. They're, squirrels and jays are very good at spreading them. They cache the acorns, and they don't always remember where they cached them, so we get new oaks everywhere. So, yeah, so are there any questions about this? Any concerns?
I have a question about the cost of removing, about this removal plan. Like, do you have a general idea of how much?
Not yet. Yeah, I'll be getting that from a contractor, yeah. And that may influence how much of this gets done. Some of the oak removal near the trails, I think that can be done in combination with the trail improvement projects. So, but yeah, that's something that I'll be finding out very soon.
For Shelley, does the money for this project, so the Oak Woodland goals, is there a big, bucket of money that goes towards the eucalyptus fire safety and this, and so you parcel it out, or are they separate funds?
It's the same fund. It's the Albany Hill Maintenance. We've budgeted different amounts for different projects, but in the end, they're all coming out of the Albany Hill Maintenance side of the Measure R funds.
So I think when we did this plan, we had to prioritize the work. I guess I'm just thinking, just with what's going on up north right now, do we want to rethink that prioritization? I see that this is all necessary in terms of maintaining the health of the Oak Woodlands, but I'm also really cognizant of the fire safety issues, so I'm talking.
Yes. Well, like I said, there is a fire safety reduction component to this. When you're taking out some of these oaks, especially the ones that are all growing close together and some of them are partly dead, when you thin those out, you're decreasing fire hazards.
Margot, you could talk about how you work with the fire department on the fire road maintenance, and those are the things that
Yes.
we take.
Yes, every year we have the meadows mowed, and the fire department requests that the fire roads be mowed to a certain width and down to a certain height. So every year that gets done. And so that would include the fire road along Cerrito Creek, and then the trail corridor on the east side, and the meadows next to it.
I know there's been a lot of other work too, removing some down eucalyptus for fire issues and a few of the
Yes.
other projects that you've taken.
Yeah, on the west side, there were 4 or 5 downed eucalyptus on that private parcel, and so we had those all removed. We had a big patch of what's called French broom, which is a non-native invasive plant that it basically grows up and takes over, doesn't allow anything else to grow in where it is, and animals can't get through it. It's a fire hazard. So we had a big patch of that removed, and we've been removing other invasive plants as well that are also fire hazards. So.
Any other questions? Okay, so time for public comment. Does anybody have any comment? No, I guess not. So bring it back. Does anybody have any more comments for Margot?
I suppose I could have asked this during the question period, and that is regarding water. So it seems like, as the meadow it seems like it's, I'm not going to say naturally because it's a factor of what we've done with the area, but it's transitioning to an oak forest of some kind.
Right, yeah.
Is any of that related to climate change, reduction in water, or is the fog enough for the meadow?
I don't think so at this point. probably in the future, there will be some impacts. It might be that maybe the oaks can't take a different kind of climate and they may decrease. That's possible.
Okay.
Anybody else? Okay. Thank you, Margot. Appreciate
You're
it.
welcome.
Okay, so next agenda item is just, let's see, soda tax. So last meeting, we brainstormed some ideas, and now the recommended action is to finalize the recommendation to City Council for how to spend the revenue by the soda tax, sugar sweetened beverage tax. And the City Council will also consider ideas at a special study session on October 30th. So does that mean that we still would have time?
There's an update to that.
Okay,
Yeah, it's going to be November 6th for the study session prior to the council meeting that day. So from 5:45 to 7:15.
Oh, prior to this meeting?
No, the city council.
City Council, sorry, okay.
Yes. And they, city council would like the chair of the commissions that are submitting ideas to be present at that meeting. So hopefully Chair Chang Frank can be there.
Yep, I can make that. So should we review the list together?
Yeah, so some of this were from the meeting and some were suggestions or ideas that were submitted to me up until the beginning of the month.
Are we trying to come up with like 5 or?
No, you don't have to
None?
limit them. Yes, you just want to pick the ones you want to be recommendation.
Well, how many?
I asked, is it a top 3? They said no.
They said
I mean, the
no.
ones you
Okay.
think are the
That
ones
we
you
think are
really.
worthwhile? Okay, very good.
Sorry, can you remind us of what the revenue has been so far?
I think that the last report, I think we're probably up to 65,000. The estimate was, when they first did the ballot measure, was 200, I believe, 23,000. I don't think think it's going to be that high, so.
That was like about half.
But we only started collecting in April.
So it's been 65,000 since April. Yeah.
It's a lot of sugar.
I guess the goal is to not make any money, right?
So I think we have a dupe on our list. We have 2 free street tree plantings. Second from the top and third from the bottom.
Okay.
That's easy.
So do you want us to say which ones we like and
Yeah, do
tick
you,
them off, or?
should we go one by one? Yeah, I guess we can just go one by one. Okay, so provide,
Julia?
yeah.
There is another semi-duplicate in the sense of free exercise classes. And then second from the bottom,
Okay.
that there be a small charge.
I see. Additional recreation classes. And the other one is on the, okay. See that.
When I read the first one, I was thinking more of every Saturday we have a free yoga class in the park rather than the classes in the recreation guide being offered at a lower cost. So I just put that out there as a distinction. A lot of communities offer something like, come do Tai Chi or come do whatever. So.
I like that idea. I also thought that, and I know we had to really be cognizant of additional staff time, so it wouldn't be like necessarily a staff thing, but if we could outsource more programs like that that are in our parks, because I think people do really value like music in the park, but it's staff time. So how could we somehow outsource more
Yeah,
park
and
events?
excuse me, all of our classes are taught by independent contractors, and so it's a matter of just finding instructors to teach the classes. And then if they were free, the funds would pay that instructor to do the class, basically.
So could some of those funds potentially be used to advertise too? I mean, I don't know if
I
that's.
would think so, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did we also duplicate the Aloni Fitness equipment?
Most likely. I didn't want to take anybody's off,
Right,
so.
right. So it looks like it's 1, 2,
There was
3, 4,
fitness
5.
and-
There's 6th from the top, and then
Yeah.
7, 8, 9, 10, 11.
It looks like, to me, just from the glancing this, I don't know that I could actually just read each one, but it also looks like there's groupings. Like there's one group that's about recreation classes, and there's another group about potentially like exercise equipment in our parks. and ball, sports equipment in the library, et cetera. And then there's another just like miscellaneous that doesn't have necessarily a direct tie. Like, I like the idea of, though, that the free street trees are health benefits. Well, it encourages walking. This is one way to like tie it together. But personally, I like the idea of having the money go to something that does seem related to nutrition or exercise somehow.
And I apologize, but I read on some of the previous material about like an Albany Health Challenge, and I don't see that on this list unless I'm missing it. Maybe that was a different agenda item from a different meeting, but I thought that had a really nice potential tie into this if we did sort of instead of the locals week, or, in addition to the locals week, a health week or a health month, that a lot of these things could be kind of piloted in something like that. You could partner with a spin studio. They can do a pop-up where they bring bikes out to the park and you do a spin class. Or you could have a walking challenge around town or use the fitness equipment that's on the greenway or whatever, but you could build in some of those things to kind of create a little more emphasis and see how you could tie in maybe actual information about nutrition or cooking or.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
Would that involve more staff time?
Invariably, sorry.
Right.
Sounds fun, though.
Sounds like it could be treated like a class that we'd bring. What takes staff time to
Yeah,
organize it?
but I mean, it is that kind of challenge to get people moving, if it's whatever
yeah,
that
no, it seems
month is, or. But it also brings in businesses as well. We have a lot of new fitness businesses in town.
True.
It's similar but different from Support Bike About Town and Marin Monster. Like I think
yeah.
you were saying, like those are really great programs.
Yeah.
We can do more programming like that, and this is a slightly different but a really great idea.
And I think the running group has been amazing, and I would love to see a walking group or something that's a little bit more kind of barrier-free or accessible exercise for people that are maybe starting out, or a couch to 5K kind of walking, something for that end of the spectrum.
Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Blue Glove Crew.
Yeah.
I love that group.
Really great that you do that.
So the community challenge idea is that, there are companies that, so if you give, most people have a pedometer or some way that tracks steps. So there's a company that does, where you have teams that get together and it tracks where you're walking so they can map the city of Albany. And if the challenge is you're going to walk every street in Albany, or if it's the team with the most steps in a month. So you could create kind of this community competition in different ways. That was the challenge that you read.
And I was just at a meeting about the Fall into Haiku that the Arts Commission is doing, and they were going to make a map for the first time this year. And so I just brought up, is it possible that maybe there could be some walking component that ties in with, maybe they could partner in future years around something like that, the two commissions, because it seems like there's a recreation component to that. And in terms of thinking about the soda tax, I don't know how that relates exactly, but I just think more opportunities for creating walking around Albany would be nice.
So, does anybody else have? I want to remind everybody that I think that water bottle idea that we came up with was really good, because that seems like a direct, right, a solution to not drinking as much sugary stuff.
So should we put that at the top of our list instead of at the bottom?
Yeah, I mean, if you guys think so, if you guys, if everybody agrees. So, okay, now I've done my little notation. So this is the 3 areas that I see. We've been talking about recreation classes. We've been talking about alternative transportation for like bike sharing and sidewalk repairs that will encourage walking. And then the third is equipment. And maybe the fourth, which is related to recreation, but it's more like community recreation. So the idea of classes in the park or supporting Bike About Town or Marin Monster. I personally, everybody should say what they feel, but I personally like the idea of community recreation, like somehow tying those classes in with the parks and community building somehow.
So are you saying when you So are you saying instead of giving the specifics like this, you want to give more general categories? Or are you just saying that you're grouping these specific things?
Yeah, I just grouped them. Yeah, I just grouped them, so if we could, I don't know if it's helpful, it's kind of helpful for me to think about it that way. And we could also present it like this to the larger group.
I think that, like, the particulars are what's so interesting about
Yes.
it. And
Oh, no,
so
I agree.
I would rather see, like, say, here's a group, and here are the 5 things that we've identified.
Oh, yeah, I'll definitely say it like that, for sure, to make it, because then they'll understand what
Like,
exactly we're talking about.
innovative and
Yep.
interesting, so.
You want to put them in the groups?
What's that?
Do you want to take the different various ideas and put them under?
Sure.
I mean, rec classes, we get that one, but there are bike racks and big bellies.
Yep. What are big bellies? Are they those?
I had to Google that.
You did?
So I suggested that, but I would say, like, looking at all these other things, like, I'd be willing to take that out, because I think that some of this other stuff is really more relevant.
I agree.
Big bellies are the triple solar trash cans that are on Solano
okay.
and in the parks.
Okay, so can I take a stab at just going one by one, the different groups? We can just talk about the group category and then talk about the specifics. So the recreation classes, we have provide nutrition, exercise classes for free of charge. And the other classes was the additional recreation classes. I would like to reduce prices for classes for adults and maybe children.
Okay.
I guess there's only the only two classes, okay? And then I'll go to the next one, transportation. I saw transportation with the street tree planting and sidewalk repair to encourage walking, and fund more bike racks, and also bring bike share to Albany. That looks like that's it. And then equipment is Ohlone Fitness, enhance equipment and additional equipment. And then it's also expand exercise equipment on the Greenway. I guess that's the same thing, right? And then there's the balls, let's see.
Yep.
Right? Oh, ball sports equipment library. There may be a vending machine-like solution for this.
What about the water bottle filling station? Is that considered equipment as well?
Oh, yeah. Well, that's sort of, I was thinking exercise equipment, but that may be kind of its own category, but sure, we can, it kind of seems like it's its own category, but water
I was
filling.
thinking of that one related to increasing like walkability or like facility for walking in around Albany, so that having water filling stations, I know it's nutritional too, but it's also about if people are walking around and there are ways and easy access to filling their water bottles at parks.
Yeah. And sorry, one I missed was a fund for grants to residents and organizations for health encouraging programs or improvements. Oh, that might be its own category too, but it seems like it's more like a recreation class kind of thing.
Maybe community recreation.
Recreation, yeah.
And is that where Bike About Town and the Marin Monster go as well?
Oh, and then that was the last one, is the community recreation. So maybe that's where it falls, that one that I just said, and then also the Bike About Town and Marin Monster community exercise. And then Commissioner Patterson you just mentioned like yoga class in the park, so something along those lines that combines recreation classes at a park. It looks like, let me know if I missed something, but that's what it looks like to me. So, does anybody want to start?
One of the things that I had in mind as I was thinking of these is things that are new or something helping something that's already going didn't excite me as much as something that's new, especially something that has other sources of income. For instance, free street trees, periodically there's programs that bring free street trees in, and I think it's great, but maybe, find something a little more unique or novel for this money. Just one way to look at it.
I apologize if I missed this, but so the health challenge that I read about, that's a totally unrelated program, or can that fall into this as well?
That came from the recreation staff. We do a rec treat each year, so we discussed how could you spend soda tax money? So it was included in the packet last month as a springboard for your brains.
I think it could definitely tie into community recreation, but we just did something like that at my work where it was like the month of July, everybody try for 10,000 steps, and you can track it on all of your all of your phone or your Fitbit or whatever, and it would kind of kept a leaderboard going. It was a
Yeah, exactly.
Did you just say rec treat?
Yeah, I call it the rec treat.
Shelley, were there, I mean, maybe I just want to make sure I'm not missing. Do we have any current, like, exercise programs in the parks ongoing?
Not in the parks, no.
I mean, not from the
drop-in
city.
pickleball, though. Does that kind of count if it's like the drop-in pickleball?
That falls under adult sports. Yes, it is drop-in. And traditionally, we don't let like outside business organizations run their business out of our parks. So you won't necessarily see that. But now with the Greenway, where there's open public fitness equipment coming, where someone could just come and, we could run a class in a park like that. In July, we tried to do, free classes in the park as part of July is Parks and Recreation Month, and so we've done a few programs like that.
And how successful have they been?
It was pretty good to be an all-day thing where you have instructors go and do Tai Chi or do a fitness class. It's a lot more fun if it's a consistent thing that you could
Right.
be doing every Saturday. There's lots of, if you go to Golden Gate Park and they have Lindy Hop on Saturdays in the park, So if you could pay an instructor to do that and make it very low cost or just something you could stumble upon, it's really fun.
Yeah, that sounds really, I think that's right. It's like a novel idea too. We don't have it in Albany now. And then you could get, could we amplify music?
Yeah.
Because if we do it at a decent time, right, and we amplified the music, then it kind of brings people in, I think, so.
Like the neighbors.
I know,
skate.
exactly, in here, because of the neighbor, right?
Roller skate, disco. If you ever go through Golden Gate Park on a Sunday, you just kind of stumble along these activities, which is really it is a community recreation. It's just kind of fun. But
Yeah.
it draws the same people because if you're into it.
And let's think about one of the comments we've heard, music in the park is the best thing.
Yeah.
The best thing. So something
Right.
that kind of carries that through a little bit might be very popular.
Yep. Okay.
Can I just ask, as a representative from the Board of Education, how do we interface with the school, if at all, around any of these soda tax dollars and/or nutrition and/or exercise? And forgive me if that's like a beginner question, but I just wanted to understand, because that seems like a natural target for some of this behavior change that the tax money is kind of geared
The
towards.
school district will be a part of that study session. So in addition to healthcare providers and, dentists and people like that are invited to that discussion.
So do we have anything that's bubbling up? It sounds like maybe the water bottle filling station is one.
I like the idea that you just talked, I went through and I chose my top 5, and I didn't do what Todd did. Like, I was like, these are the things that I think are really important, or the things that I think that, that would be great for us to move forward, but we haven't had funding to do them, like, more exercise equipment along the Ohlone. But after the last little bit of this conversation where we're talking about what it's like at Golden Gate Park and having these, community events that are free to the public, like, it made me start thinking, like, well, maybe it's better if we just have this one thing and we focus on it instead of going forward with, here are 20 ideas. Like, what if we just said, you know what, like, we think it would be a great idea to do, and something community-oriented like that. I don't know, that really appeals. And I was just back east visiting my grandmother, who's 89, and she was talking about how she's going to the library Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for her free exercise class. And I was like, she put her sneakers on, and we don't have free exercise classes here that I know of. I mean, we have cheap classes, but if you had something in the park, and it was something like the Lindy Hop thing, which I had visited and loved watching, and it appeals to a range of ages, like, that would be a really wonderful program. So,
Yeah.
so I don't know. I'm not going to say what my top 5 are.
I mean, even things like, a capoeira class, like, that's a really attractive, interesting thing to watch. But, you had to invite, right, or have those instructors.
But that's what the funding could go towards.
Yeah, to the instructors and say, come out and just have it be a plan that, yeah.
Yeah, once a month, like you could have like a dance instructor, you could have a capoeira instructor, you could have a Tai Chi instructor, sort of go through, you know, you could have, like Bridges Rock Gym come out with their tightrope, what do you call
Yes,
those lines? Like,
yeah,
you know,
I
different
love it.
track lines, and, you know, every month have a different activity.
There was one community where they had something called Try It, I think was the name of the activity, and every time it was just come be exposed to try this new thing, kind of like the Try series, the sprint triathlon, the super micro triathlons where they're just like the Try It triathlon. But that'd be a nice way for people that are not, you know, savvy about whatever that activity is to be exposed to it a little bit.
Like that.
Should that be, if we're agreeing, we could have that be the thing, or just a proposal? I mean, I kind of like the idea of like you say, at least just not like 10 things, because they're gonna have every other commission also recommending. So if we came with like our 2 or 3 things, right, then, yeah.
I love the bottle filling just because I think it's very practical and it is a substitution for the soda. But I think in terms of building community, this seems to have a lot of traction.
I would support that, too. I think that sounds great.
Great.
And the city of San Francisco has a couple examples of those public water bottle filling stations, like along Market.
Oh, I should look at that, and then I'm in the city. I mean, does anybody work in the city? Take a picture.
I may have some.
We can probably just look it up online too, but, okay.
There's really good ones that I saw at like a lot of national parks where it's like, it's a water fountain and then you just put it's a gray and it's a really nice looking, simple thing, but it's so great for filling water bottles for a lot of people.
And where would we, I mean, I guess it depends on budget. I mean, I don't think we have, you know, the budget's not big enough to plumb the city, but where there's an existing water fountain or a city building of some kind, we might be able to have
Right.
this. I'm not
We
sure.
have, I mean, we talked about this, that the Public Works Department's done a pretty good job on fixing a lot of our broken faucets. So in Lonely Greenway, there's a faucet at the San Gabriel Triangle area that has been broken. They've repaired that.
Okay.
It's a
Great.
regular faucet. It's not a bottle filler. They also fixed the historical one under the BART tracks where the plaza will be,
Right, right.
which is great. They've maintained it and then added some new hardware for it, and now it will work. And then, you know, in Dartmouth Tot Lot, at the Dartmouth Tot Lot, we're putting a bottle filler in there. We have a bottle filler in Memorial Park on the side of the Little League shack, and with the bathroom
Model.
remodel, because we're going to open the wall up, we're going to put a bottle filler on that wall right there. It also helps discourage sand, hopefully. And then the other project is at Ocean View. We have, I think there's 2, at least one, fountain there that does not work. It never has. That we're going to take those out and put a bottle filler on the side of the Friendship Club because there's already pipes that are in that spot. So a few are already going in. They're in the works. Now, you know, putting some on Solano, those would be different, and that would be really exciting.
I think it
That
would.
would be a change. Yeah.
Okay, so does anybody else
I
have any?
think the SEJC is recommending that as well.
Right, that's,
I think so.
Oh, water bottles
we
on
got the
sale.
idea
Oh,
from.
great.
Right,
you
because
suggested.
they have a student on their commission, and the high school's trying to do that, where they're giving everybody a water bottle and putting in bottle fillers at school, I think.
Great.
California Building Code allows you to replace your water fountains now with 50% of your water fountains can be replaced with water bottle filling stations. So it was like the 2017 update of the California Building Code. So I think you'll see it more, but that's inside buildings. And so like the one I was talking about on Market Street, it's not the standard one that's like, you know, refrigerated water
Yeah.
up against a building. Like this is like right out on Market Street,
Yeah.
where it's just like this thing and you just hold your bottle up and it's,
I could take a picture because I work at Market and Third, but do you know what the cross street is?
It's right by the Pete's that's at the Powell Street.
I know, yeah, I'm right by there. Yeah,
Montgomery Street.
literally, I'm a block from there,
Is
so
that
I'm
the
happy to take a
plaza where
picture.
There's like free internet.
Specialties, yeah.
Yeah, it's right there.
Okay.
Yep.
So then, okay, so we'll definitely put forward the water filling station suggestion. And then the other one, could it just be that we want to offer some kind of park recreation class that will be community building too. Maybe here are some ideas. I mean, I think the only other way we could really offer something substantial or firm is if we actually started calling people to see if we could get that set up. But I would imagine we can find people to do these kind of classes, so.
I think
There's
if
a
we're
lot of
willing to
filling.
pay, it'll be good.
I agree. I think it's going to be easy, so.
But that's what, I mean, it is willing, you're saying willing to pay an instructor.
If the city is, if we provide money for the instructor, I don't think it'd be that hard to find an instructor, is what I'm saying.
And yeah, and it's I think that's a relatively small
Exactly.
cost potentially, right? So,
That's,
oh,
that's
So
a
when
lot of
we
film.
identify Albany's color scheme, then we can get
There we
the
go.
water fountains to match.
Well,
Those big red poles.
blue comes in red. Albany's colors and Albany green. It's like currently there's a yellow, which is from the old seal, which is a goldish color, and then there's this Albany green, and then black have been the traditional colors.
I think we're getting ahead of ourselves.
Just letting you know. You know.
so okay. So I know the meeting's running late, so I'll just say that since I'm going to be going to that meeting, those are the two areas I'm going to put forward. And if you guys want to email Shelley with any thoughts you have about specific examples of what kind of things could happen in those community recreation classes, just let me know. Then I'll present it to them because I think you're right that we should have specific ideas of what that would look
Illustrate a
like.
little bit.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
liked how you were talking about that, like just try it, or I don't know how you said that, but like if we could say every month to have one class and give a couple examples, and then if you know of the city or wherever you heard.
Walnut Creek has a yoga class in the park, and they get like tons of people. I think whoever does it, it's a business acquisition thing for them, right? So they, I think, do it for very low cost. There's some liability for the city having a thing like that in the park, but otherwise it's a pretty basic.
Yeah, that sounds great.
I think part of what we've talked about is some of what I had behind the idea of, just having a fund for grants for people to come. I'd love to offer a Tai Chi class in Memorial Park.
Yep. I think so too. And another idea too is that we have so many exercise classes in Albany that we could try to promote Albany businesses that way too, right? So it may be very cheap in terms of what we put out to get them to go out there, but, okay, great. Do we want to suggest what park though? Memorial, I'm thinking
Memorial.
right away, right? I mean, we could do Terrace too, but it seems like Memorial makes,
Memorial, and I don't know what space is at Ocean View for something like that, but it seems like Memorial is where people are used to coming.
I think the Greenway as well. I mean, I could
Greenway,
see-
yeah,
I
yeah,
wouldn't
yeah.
want to eliminate anything. I mean,
Maybe move it around.
open to,
maybe leave it, move it around.
yeah, move it around. That's right.
Maybe not make a recommendation because everybody's going to imagine that it's near them.
Right.
So if you say it's in Memorial Park, they'll say, oh, no. So
Yeah, okay,
just say, at various appropriate parks.
great.
And just one other example, like I know Cycle Bar, we're doing a pop-up event with them for my work, and it's like $100 or something, and they bring out a bunch of bikes.
Oh, that's
And
great.
so a lot of these spin companies have a setup for pop-up events where you just are, they already have a whole in a box kind of version of the program, and they do it at parks, they do it outside, they do it inside, so.
Yeah, so any examples like that you think of, you could email me directly. I don't know how we can do
No,
this
that's
with the
fine.
Brown Act, to you, Shelley, and then you could forward to me before November 6th, I think.
Actually, before that, the staff report, or the memo has to go to the city manager on the 27th, I think it is.
This month, okay, so.
I might let you write the memo because you're going
Sure.
to present it. but,
Yeah, no
So the same deadline as for the comments about the other park, basically the 25th.
Yes, I think that's the, our meeting is the 26th, which is the fourth Thursday.
Okay, so do we take public comments about that? Any, okay, next item, is everybody okay on that one? Any other comments? Okay. Next item, 6.2, park rules and Peggy Thompson Pierce Street Park hours of operation. Shelley, you want to take it away?
Yes. There was a question from Commissioner Abbott about why these two were together. And basically, they were together because of the topic of park rules. The one about the Ocean View ball field and dogs, I wanted it to at least have a couple times on our agenda, and tonight just to kind of open that discussion up. we might find like, nah, it's not really necessary, it's fine the way it is, or let's bring it back and have a open discussion and actually vote on it and take action. And the other one is that since the park, Peggy Thompson Pierce Street Park, will be opening, it doesn't have established hours of operation, we want to establish those so that when we make our new park rules signs, we have that information. So you've seen the staff report. If you want to take, let's take park rules, hours of operation first.
See, isn't it confusing?
Yes, it's totally, I'm so confused. So there's a staff report in your packet, which talks about the evolution of the various park rules, hours of operation, and how we got to them. Peggy Thompson Pierce Street Park, in the master plan, the Parks and Rec master plan, is considered a neighborhood park. Terrace Park and Dartmouth are also neighborhood parks, and those hours of operation are 7 a.m. to 9 p.m., and that's April through October. Basically, it's the when we change clocks, and then 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. And so the recommendation is to make those all coincide together. Makes it easier for police to enforce hours when they know the neighborhood parks all have the same and community parks all have the same. I realize that it is kind of a long hours of operation, writing that on a sign, all the different hours. We don't typically do the sunrise, the sunset version of park hours because some people do use the park after dark, and it's just because it gets dark so early. But that's the recommendation before you then, is to accept that as the Peggy Thompson Pierce Street Park hours of operation. I can answer questions if you have them.
Would there be any reason not to accept those hours?
I don't think so, no, yeah. We don't have lights in the park, and so
Yeah.
it's really an effort to get people out of there at a reasonable hour.
Any other questions? Okay, no other questions? So comments from the public? No? Okay.
I'll go ahead and, I'm going to move that we accept the existing hours for neighborhood parks and apply that to Peggy Thompson Pierce Street Park.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Okay, nobody opposed then, so passes.
So that will have to go to council. That'll be its next step.
And then, okay, so last, 6-3.
So.
Oh,
y-
oh, sorry, we
dog
didn't talk
park.
about that, I'm sorry. Okay.
It is so confusing.
So
Prohibiting dogs on Ocean View Field and
number
in tennis
2.
courts is discussion only. Discussion only, I
It
see.
is discussion. There is no action for this tonight. It's just open discussion about it. At when Section A and B were established, in normal people's terms, that's the ball field at Memorial Park and the place where dogs run crazy. They said that no dogs are allowed on that ball field when they put up that fence. And so that separated kids from dogs. At Ocean View, we do have a lot of dogs or people who will run their dogs on that Ocean View ball field. We don't necessarily have too many conflicts, except during the middle of the day, we let the school use it for PE, and that's usually when people are trying to run a dog out there. It is a ball field, it's not necessarily a dog run. And the unfortunate part is that dogs poop on that field when they're out there, and then we have youth sports and adult sports that use the field later on. So we do have a lot of issues with that part of it. If people just pick up after their dogs, it probably wouldn't be. The other one is tennis courts. There isn't a ordinance for that. We do have it for playground areas. You can't have a dog inside of a playground area. But it might make sense to say that dogs are not allowed in fenced areas or some general thing that would apply to parks. Or you may say, no, that's a totally fine place for dogs to be able to run free. Maybe it's a bigger spot. I don't know if we want it to necessarily become a de facto kind of dog run area. Typically, the people that I see out there, there's a woman who sets up her dog agility thing, or there are people that will throw the ball out on the ball field. So it could just be isolated to just ball field, not dogs are not allowed on ball fields, to make it consistent, because I can't completely understand why both ball fields weren't given the same rules. That's why it's up for discussion. And as we go ahead, with making our rule signs, just want to kind of hammer these things out before we make up some of the signs so they're consistent, or we don't have to change them later. So.
The one thing that I think about is that Memorial Park has room for dogs to run, Terrace Park has room for dogs to run, and Ocean View, if you take away that ballpark, then you don't really have anywhere for it to run, because otherwise you have mostly wood chips. in the, and under the evergreen. So, so that could be an issue because there really isn't anywhere in that Ocean View neighborhood unless you go into the village where you can run your dogs.
Or the bulb.
You can go to the bulb, I guess that's right. So anyway, that was just one thing that came.
Yeah, that's true, you can go to the bulb. But I agree, I was thinking that exact same thing too, that it's hard to be a dog owner, although at the same time, UC Village doesn't allow dogs. And you do have the bulb. But I also say, I wonder how, if we did prohibit, how that would be enforced. I mean, I'm just,
It, basically, it's mostly complaint-based, no matter, but if
the
it's
police
in-
comes
yeah.
out, or?
Yeah, if there's a
Okay.
dog on the field and let's say a youth group shows up and they call the police, if it becomes part of the municipal code, then you can get a ticket for
I
that
see.
or a warning for it. If it's not in the books, then there's nothing the police can do.
I mean, I'm just, part of me, and I don't ever use that park, and I have a dog, but, so I can see both sides, but part of me sees it a little bit as an equity issue, because I do think that, like, if I can imagine if you have a dog and you don't have young kids that use the baseball field, it's like, okay, so much territory, public space is given to the baseball fields. And I have a dog and I can't, it's not as easy. I mean, especially the bulb, it is there, but it's farther, right? And the density is right by that ball field. So that's one of the concerns I have. And again, I notice this also because my kids don't play baseball. So it's like so much space given to baseball, which is good because it's used, but it just also excludes any other activity. Really, people don't go out there on those ball fields and like play. I don't know. It just doesn't seem welcome for anything but baseball. So, but dog owners are using it. And I just wanted to put that out there.
I would disagree with that. Soccer plays out there too. And
Okay.
I know that we go out there, and I do play. I play adult softball out there.
good.
We often have people out using the field when we're trying to get a game going. So it is used.
Good. I'm glad to
I
hear
don't see a
that.
problem with dogs, though. I mean, I've run all over that thing. I've never found any dog poop. That doesn't
You
mean
can-
that it's not there.
Yeah, you can thank your adult sports coordinator
But,
for picking up
yeah,
poop
I'm
before
sure.
the games. Yeah.
Sure. But would it be possible to have, kind of a humans have priority? So dogs not allowed while students are using or while school's in session? Just some way to kind of avoid those more kind of the acute issues. I don't, but still leave it open. Because I know one of the people on my team brings her dog and, the mascot, great, and hangs out in the dugout. And as soon as that game is over, just loves to run out there and just run around on the field for a few minutes. But
I guess I'm kind of concerned about the health issues, since my son used to play soccer on the memorial field before the dogs were kept off, and it, at least there was a major issue, which is probably why they have Section B. Is there space for an Ocean View Section B? And I just don't understand, the dogs can't run under the trees. I don't understand that. You said in the wood chips?
Oh, I don't know. Well, if I'm thinking of the area that we're talking about, maybe I'm not thinking of the right area. It's right by the children's playground, and I do think it's just
a
kind of
picnic area.
etiquette that you don't, as a dog owner, you don't let your dog run free when there's young kids around. So, yeah,
it's also not fenced. So
yeah, it's not a fence. Yeah, that's right. It's not a fence.
picnic areas.
Well, the current community garden could become the Ocean View Section B if it's a health issue. So-
I guess it could be and it's fine the way it is. Or, let's put it back on here and actually just vote on it officially. It's up to you.
I'm wondering
Be a
why
pass.
is it coming up just because this other question of the hours is coming up, or has there been
Over the years, like we experience it because it is my coordinator who will prep the field or get ready for games and have to pick up dog poop. And I want to eliminate signs that say, no dogs allowed because that's not the case.
Oh.
It's not actually the rule. I mean, we can also use these are common courtesy ball field and make suggestions like, please pick up after your dog. That is a law. You do have to do that. Or some other way to try to make it point out that to be respectful of the field and other people using it.
And I would certainly think that we could put the sign, "No dogs on the tennis courts." That seems,
It's not in the,
no, but we could
Yeah,
add,
oh.
we could add that or change that.
yeah.
Make that, so it makes sense to me.
Do you want me to put it on the next agenda and just go one way or the other on it, and, or
How
you
do you
feel?
all feel about that? Do you want to talk about it more?
Yeah. It's just discussion, but if you say, let's just, we're leaving it as is, and we don't need to revisit, or we don't need to actually vote on that, let's just leave it alone, that's fine too.
How are we feeling about that? About,
I would say leave it alone for now.
okay.
If it comes up again, I mean,
I guess I would like to know a little more about whether it really isn't a health issue. You know,
In terms-
I can
glad
see,
it's
I'm not
not
sure.
for you.
I'm not sure, yeah, yeah. Health is
In terms of dog,
Yeah,
Waste.
dog waste, yes.
sanitation, yeah.
So is that a question to look into, or I guess,
Is there a way to?
no, I'm not gonna go out there and like count.
No, I'm not asking you to.
You have record of complaints.
I mean, does the school, when they're using it, do they have issues?
That would be what, if we were gonna put it on the official next agenda, then I would do more investigation for you in terms of if you are making a full decision.
My only comment is it sounds like there's going to be further discussion about Section B down the road related to dog parking and where they should be and how to best accommodate them. It seems like perhaps this is something best addressed in a larger conversation about dogs in Albany and where they are,
Sure, yeah.
because then people that have dogs would be able to comment on sort of,
Everything.
we actually went down this road too, and we talked about the dog subcommittee. So is this a question for the dog subcommittee or the committee? I don't know.
Yes.
Ad hoc?
Figure
It
that
seems
one
like
out,
that may be more the appropriate place for this
Yeah,
discussion.
yeah. And it's true. You have that topic on your work plan of where dogs are in
Right.
Albany.
I think
Makes
what
sense.
gave rise, this was the sign-making plan, is what
yeah.
you wanted to get those ducks in a row. But
But that's totally
if it
fine.
doesn't happen, it doesn't happen, yeah.
It's a small, it can be a small change in terms of signage, so
Okay, so we're
let it lie.
letting it lie? Okay.
Sleeping dog, as it were.
Yes.
Okay, so,
But are we going to prohibit dogs on the tennis courts? Keep that piece or let the whole thing lie?
Well, if you want to bring it up as a topic of where dogs can and cannot be,
Yeah, maybe make that part of the larger
we
conversation.
could do that.
Because that's kind of a heavier lift, right? We're actually trying to.
They're all change. They're all
changed.
just a change. I mean, if you this was historical for the park signage, we have signs everywhere. I love our maintenance guys that just try to make it like I'm going to put a sign up. No, skateboarding is not necessarily not allowed in a tennis court, and yet they put a sign up. You know, dogs. There is no rule that you can't have your dog in the tennis court. I want to take all those signs down and just put up the signs that actually apply to whatever the municipal code is, or, you know, those are the ones that we want to enforce. There are like common courtesy ones where you're saying this is a policy or something to think about for the enjoyment of all users of the park, which are totally on most rule signs in parks. So that just means they're not going to be enforced by the police, but you would hope people would follow them as a good neighbor or a good park user.
I will say I've never in all my life seen dogs using tennis courts as like a regular, but then again, it may be just small parks and areas, so
Yeah.
hopefully they're not going to the bathroom in there.
No, I don't think that would, no.
okay. Okay, so,
you.
so do you have any public comments at this point? No? Keep on asking. Okay, so moving on to item 6.3, street tree list subcommittee. Any reports?
It's been a very hectic time. I was out of
guilty.
town, yeah.
Okay, so we'll just wait till whenever you guys want to update next. So, okay, so next item, Friends of Albany Parks events.
This is just a recap as we finished out our season. The next batch of Friends of Albany Park events will be in the spring activity guide, which comes out at the beginning of December. So the last two, this was the Creekside cleanup that Margot and Brendan led, and they had probably like 50 volunteers from different organizations and from different cities. As you can see, we had people from El Cerrito and a few of their green teams. So it was a very good event. They did a lot of work up there. They took out a lot of trash, taking out ivy, and I don't think we've had I think we only had one report of poison oak or ivy. So that's a good day.
So it means I wasn't.
Was it you? Did you
No,
get
I
it?
wasn't there,
Oh.
but it would have been too if I was, so.
I just stick near Margot and say, will you please point it out? A lot up there, but they did a lot of great work, and it was a good collaboration with the El Cerrito side, because it's just the creek separates those two areas. And the second one was, the last one of the year was the Dartmouth Hot Lot cleanup. And that one, they did some work. They're kind of prepping for when we were going to put in the drinking fountain. We're making a little repair to a sidewalk, so they did some work that helped out Public Works on this day. They do a lot of sweeping, and there's a lot of weeding out of plastic toys, which I think is really funny. If you go by there, the place is full of toys. But lots of weeding and just making it look better. So another 15 volunteers, which is a good turnout for Dartmouth, because it's a pretty small space. So I think we ended really well with the cleanup days. Did anybody get to attend either one of those by chance? No, it was a busy time.
I did go to Creekside,
You did?
but I was suffering from the worst case of poison oak I've ever had in my
Oh,
life.
no.
So I couldn't help, but I was.
Before you got there? Before you got to
Yes,
the,
I got
okay.
it
Oh,
elsewhere.
okay.
But I really wanted to go and see what they were
Oh,
up
yeah.
to, and it was impressive how many people were out there. It was great.
Yeah, Margot does a great job leading that group, so we're lucky to have her. And that's it for my parks update.
Okay, thanks. Next agenda is, or next item is future agenda items. So last month we were talking about and you explained why you couldn't do the map, the overall mapping. But the other one that we had that I should have followed up on was the discussion about the street tree policy. And I know that John needed to be here for that. So is there a way we could definitely schedule him in? Because I don't know that you would necessarily need any prep. It's really just John being here to answer questions,
Yeah,
right?
do you want to clarify what you want that discussion to be about? Is it the criteria in the current, or is it just general? The issue, the one is the tree that was on the last agenda. Since we didn't have it on here, I want to resolve that one.
Yeah.
Probably before we have the same meeting with a discussion about it.
Sure. Okay,
That tree will come back to the next meeting.
okay.
I think we have a plan for that.
So you think we should have that larger discussion subsequent to closing up that tree that we just?
I think so, because
Okay.
I feel like we'll be talking about a lot of things that are happening with that tree. So if it turns out okay, I think it might be fine if it's later in the meeting.
Sure.
And we could handle the tree at the beginning.
Okay,
But I think it is a valuable discussion. I'm still, really trying to get, as you know, there's like a bunch of people that are involved in this tree.
yeah. Is there any update on that? Well, maybe we don't talk about it because it's not on
Yeah.
agenda. So anyway, so maybe
It's 944 Stanage will be on.
we'll be on, so would you suggest having that discussion during that same meeting? Subsequent to that?
Yeah, since I think we have a plan of attack for the,
Okay, great.
I think it will be okay.
And Commissioner Mellors, I think you were the one who brought up the idea of having that discussion, which I agree. So were there any particular questions you wanted John to prepare for, or just like topics?
I'm having a hard time remembering.
You know what, I think what I remember was something that I've struggled with too, even trying to go deep in this issue, is it's not clear who's responsible for what. And so maybe just a big picture
Yeah.
understanding of the whole street tree policy and how all the various departments and other things that we have to consider. Because we're like deciding on this one piece, and there's this other bigger piece too.
Right, and that is John is supposed to be working on that, where we talked about an overall tree policy. So we could check in with him to see how he's doing.
Great. Okay.
Trying to make that a package. It's like you said, instead of just one little piece, it's a tree
Thank you for
policy.
reminding me. To me, it's very confusing. What's the homeowner's responsibility, obligation, and the same for the city.
Yep, it's a dilemma. So, okay, so the next, I guess, meeting's adjourned. If there's not anything else, right? Meeting's adjourned? Okay, thank you.